Hello everyone and welcome to Tech with Robert, the Get Started with T-SQL course. In this lecture we're going to talk about the like operator. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give a thumbs up on the video if you like what I do. That really helps me to know what I do well and what you guys want me to improve or focus more on in the future lectures. So without further ado, let's just dive right into SQL. So as we can see here, we can start up by writing a query. And what if we wanted to, so let's just say that we do a select star from the customer over here, and we see that okay, we have the last name over here, and we want to select every last name that ends with ng. And so how could we write this query? So we see we have Yang, we have Huang, and we have Yang. And so, well, we could do like, okay, we could start off by saying where the last name is equal to Yang, or last names equal to Huang, or last names equal to Yang. Okay, we can then we can scroll down here and we can see if we have any other. We have NG, we have King, so you can see, or we could just do it a lot simpler way. As you can see, this becomes very tedious, and like we sort of need to know every single last name that ends with ng and sort of get them in a where clause and an or clause. So that becomes very tedious. Like, what if we have 100 different last names that ends with ng? So there's a lot simpler way we could do is by using something called wildcards and the like operator. Okay, so we use that in combination with a where clause. So if we could let me just select a couple of, so we don't have so many fields to work with. We could say customer key, let's say the first name, middle name, and last name. Okay, and then we could say, okay, so we can say where the last name, and then we write like, followed by two simple quotes, like quotation marks like this. And how do we specify? So okay, we want everything from where the last name ends with ng. So what we can do here is we can say a percentage sign here and then write ng. So what this means is that we're using a wildcard operator here, and we're saying that give us everything before the ng in the end. So take everything in the last name, and if the two last characters are n and g, display that in the query. So if we run this query, we see here that we get all the different last names here that ends with ng. So we have Yang, Huang, Yang, Wang, King, Zhang, Liang, Zheng, and all of these. So now we get all of the last names that ends with ng. So instead of having to know beforehand, like, okay, we have I think we have like 56 different last names that ends with ng. And I want to select all of these last names. How do I do that? And okay, I could do like 56 different or operators. It's just very tedious, and it's not at all worth doing. So instead we use the like operator here, and we specify that everything that comes after the wildcard, the string has to end with ng, and then we display that in the query. And we could also, if we just copy this query, what happens if we change place on the percentage mark? So instead we say that, okay, we have ng here, and then the quotation mark here, the percentage sign. That means that we want every last name that starts with ng. But that doesn't make any sense right now, so we could say, let's say just n. If we see now, we are selecting all of those fields where the last name starts with N. So there we get Nate, Nath, Nara, Navarro, Nara, and I see all of this. So we're writing a query and we're saying that give us all the customers here whose last name starts with the letter N. And so what if we want to do some kind of combination? Like what if we wanted to get a list of, okay, we want all the last names that starts with NA and ends with the letter O. So here, for example, we would get Navarro. So what we could do then is we can combine these. So we could say, and let me just copy the query right over here. We copy the query again. We could say, for example, we could run NA, and then right after the percentage sign, we can write the letter O. So what this will do is it's going to retrieve a list of all of the last names that starts with NA and ends with the letter O. So in this case, we're going to get values like Navarro. If we run this query, we see here that Navarro, it starts with NA and it ends with the letter O. I just think that's the only one here. Yeah. That's the only one here, but you can see that we can extend sort of how we search in a column in a very robust way by using the like operator. And there's also, let's say that if we go back to this query right here, the one above, and we say, okay, that we want all of those last names that start with the letter N. So we could say that we have a lot of last names here that starts with NA, but what if we don't know, like it could be anywhere in the string, like, okay, we want to, now we looked at, okay, it starts with NA and we know how to do if the last name should end with NA, but what if we just want all of the last name that has NA at any specific index in the column? It doesn't matter, like if it's Navarro or Narabo or whatever type of combination, just if it contains the letters NA. Then we could use, if we copy the query again here, we could use the like operator again, and we could say that we do a percentage sign in the end, in the beginning and in the end, and whatever we put in between here, it's going to look for, this is the same as saying that, give me all of the customers here whose last name contains the letters NA. So if we run this query, we see we get Nath, Hernandez, Nara, Navarro, Anand, and see, so all of the customers who contains NA. We could also do a little more sophisticated searches. So what if we wanted to in the previous examples we had, for example, Yang and Wang, and we could specify that we want every last name that ends with A and G, and it doesn't matter what letter what the character the last name starts with. So let me just copy the query here again. We could say, for example, we could write an underscore here, and we could write A and G, for example. So now it's going to display all of the customers whose last name ends with A and G, and it doesn't matter what character the last name starts with. So if it starts with A, B, or C, or whatever, it's still going to get it's still going to display that customer. So if we have, for example, here we have Yang, Wang, and we also have Tang. So if you put the underscore here in the beginning, it basically just says, give me all of the customers whose last name starts with any character, but it has to end with A and G, like this. There's also another way to, what if we wanted to display all of the last names that starts with either T, Z, or J? So we looked here, if we look at the first one, we see that, okay, here is, we want all of the last names who starts with N, but if we were to say, oh, well, we want N, or for example one N or O or K, for example, this doesn't work because this is going to look for when the last name starts with NOK as, you know, as a word. So this doesn't work. So what we have to do is, so what we could do is, let me just copy this query once again. We could say, we could write like this instead. So we still have the single quotes here, and we could say, we could type brackets, and then the percentage sign here in the end. And so here we can specify what type of letters we want the last name to start with. So we could say, for example, T, Z, and J. And so if we run this query, we see that we get all of the customers whose last name starts with either a T, like Torres, or a Z, like Zhu, or J, Johnson, Jenkins, Zhang, Jimenez, and so on. So there is another way to sort of, it's just like another way of writing this. So what if we want to, okay, you can start with A, B, C, D, E, or whatever. There's a sort of a shortcut how we can write this query. And so what we can do is we could write like this again. So if we just copy it once again, we could say, we could write the same syntax, but instead of, you know, writing out all of the letters that we want to, we could simply just write A and then dash E. So what this will do, it's going to get us all of the customers whose last name starts with A, B, C, D, or E. So we could separate this by doing this dash here, so from A until, and also including E. So we don't have to write it like A, B, C. You know, we don't have to write out all of the characters, because if we were to have it from like A to K, you know, there's a lot of characters we need to write, and it's unnecessary. So we could specify like an interval here, so from A until E. So if we now run this query, we see that we get a lot of different last names here. So some of us starts with an A, like Alvarez. We also have Bennett with a B, Carlson with a C, Edwards with a E, and so forth. There is a lot of different types of wildcards you could use here. There's a lot of different combinations on how you can combine it, and you can combine them in a way so you get pretty advanced and sophisticated search patterns if you want to look for different patterns in a column. I'm not going to, I think this is it for this lecture, but I'm going to post a link down in the description if you want to read more about these and see that, and you'll see all of different types of filtering you could do and all the syntax. I'm going to leave a link in the description. In the next lecture, I'm going to cover how we can search for values using in a string or in a column by using the in and the not in operators. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lecture, and I will see you in the next lecture. Bye bye.